This is a call to order of a special meeting of the Bridgeport Board of Education. Today is Tuesday, November 17th, 2020, and the time is 7 p.m. Mr. Secretary, would you call the roll?
Yes, John Weldon,
Present.
Bobby Brown,
Present.
Sybil Allen,
Here.
Albert Benahan,
Present.
Jessica Martinez, Joseph Sokolovic,
Present.
Chris Taylor. I see him. Chris, say present. Take off your microphone. No? Oh, I see.
All
him.
right, Joe, can you hear me now?
Yes, present. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Joseph.
Oh, and video. Okay.
Who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
All right. So it appears we have a quorum. And first item on the agenda, I want to note that Superintendent Mike Festani is here. And attorney. If someone has their microphone on, would they please mute it? Attorney Joseph Marati is here. The first item on the agenda is discussion and possible action in the matter of Luz Tedesco versus the Board of Education. This is a pending claim and as such qualifies for discussion in executive session. I'm going to ask for a motion to recess the public meeting and move into executive session for the purpose of discussing the matter of Luz Tedesco versus the Board of Education, with those members being present being the Board of Education, the Superintendent, Attorney Joseph Marati, staff member Ulysses Rogers, who's from our Payroll and Benefits Office and is the staff representative in this matter. Is there a motion to that effect?
So
I
moved.
move that we go into.
Okay, moved by Ms. Allen. Is there a second?
I'll second it, John.
Second by Mr. Taylor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, we're recessing into executive session. The time is noted as being 7:03 p.m. Mr. Testani, would you let us know when we are in private?
And we need Mr. McLeod back in.
Yes.
Hey, Super T, I love the backdrop.
It's better than my office.
Yeah, I'd say it's cool.
You can do it on yours.
It looks like Mr. McLeod is here.
We
Mr.
are good to
McLeod,
go,
that's right.
yes.
And you're live.
Mr. McLeod, that's right.
Yes, sir, Ms. Weldon, thank you.
Okay, so we are returning to the open meeting. Time is noted as being 7:21 p.m. and all members previously in attendance are present. So I'm going to seek a motion to approve the settlement in the matter of Luz Tedesco versus Bridgeport Board of Education in accordance with the recommendation of council as discussed in executive session. Is there a motion to that effect?
Abstain.
And Ms. Brown abstains, is
Abstain.
that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
Me
motion
too.
carries unanimously with one abstention.
2 abstentions. Mr. Benon abstained.
Mr. Benahan abstains as well?
Yes, he did.
Yes, I did, sir. Yes,
Okay.
I did.
So 2 abstentions, 1 by Mr. Benahan, 1 by Ms. Brown, and everybody else is in favor. Okay, is there anything else you need from us, Attorney Marati?
No, thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Thank you. You're free to go. Thank you for your time.
Good evening.
Take care. So the next item on the agenda is the superintendent report of district operations related to COVID-19. Mr. Testani, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to be brief. This was just to give everyone an update, just to talk a little bit about our decision to suspend in-person instruction temporarily and move to full remote at the end of this week. It was a difficult decision to make, but after much conversation and consultation with our Department of Public Health, our state officials, and a brief conversation between I and the Commissioner of Education, who is extremely supportive of what we've done here in Bridgeport up until this point. We made the decision because of the spike in cases that we're seeing in the Bridgeport community. We are being hit much harder than other areas of the state of Connecticut. We anticipated this was on its way, given the numbers about a month ago, I believe, when Lisa Morrissey and I spoke. She said it was about 2.5 weeks out from Bridgeport. It was hitting Norwalk, and I can't say she wasn't right on target. The concern is the disruptions to the operations of school buildings. As you've all been made aware, you receive notifications when we have cases and what are the impact on buildings. In some buildings, the impact has been minimal. I think the hybrid schedule at our high schools have allowed us to have very little disruptions to the high school schedules. And for that, and just overall, it's been a good experience. We had full in-person for our elementary students that parents opted to send them. And we were going to move to hybrid, but at this time, again, under the advice of health officials, we are going to go fully remote. With the intention of reopening schools in sometime in January. With the holidays coming, I understand. With the holidays come many traditions, family traditions, as the governor's 2.1 phase 2.1 has allowed opportunities for families to gather in smaller groups than may be what they're accustomed to. However, we anticipate that this is going to impact over the holiday season how we operate and how we're able to keep schools open. So that being said, Monday we moved to fully remote. Couple of things associated with this. Obviously, there is some hardships that are presented to some of our families and our parents, and fortunately, we can't do anything about that at this time. I think they're well aware of what the situation is in the public, and we're asking, as well as the mayor, as well as Department of Public Health, as well as the governor and everyone else, that we all try to do our part over the next several weeks in order to mitigate and slow the spread of COVID-19 so that we can reopen safely again in January at a given date. We have not put a date on that. Today, myself and my executive team talked about a phase-in of reopening that will begin at some point in mid-January as we monitor closely the current COVID-19 situation in Bridgeport. As we get closer to the holiday break in December, we'll be able to announce to families a tentative reopening date and what that would look like. Most likely, we're looking at bringing our pre-K and our self-contained special education students and high school students back first in a hybrid model at all levels except pre-K. And then we would look probably in a week or so after that to bring our K-8 students back in a hybrid model. So we want to be deliberate, we want to be careful, and we want to be safe. Just a couple of things to add to this, and then I'm open to any questions. Number one, we do receive on our Bridgeport Public Schools website lots of commentary on the decisions that are being made. Unfortunately, not all commentary is done tactfully and respectfully. Some of it is extremely rude, disrespectful, and we've begun to block folks who have no regard to the other families and other parents and actually the students who do follow the webpage and the social media pages. It's unfathomable to me how some folks can be outright disrespectful. Everyone has a right to their opinion. I respect everyone's opinion. We said that from the beginning in reopening, whether you were for in-person instruction or not, or whether you were opting for a remote experience, just be respectful of everyone's decision. It is a personal decision. Unfortunately, that is not always the case. There was an email that went out notifying the district that we would be closed yesterday. Unfortunately, some folks felt that it was blaming teachers. This was no intention of the email to blame anyone. There are individuals that have openly expressed dissatisfaction, as you all know, from protests to other online campaigns on social media to close our schools. They have, and I've seen the screenshots, so I'm not saying this without any evidence. They have openly expressed mass call-outs. Fortunately, we did not have to experience that. We did experience some small pockets where people had some concerns early on when the first cases were reported, and I understand where those teachers have come from. I've spent, outside of the first meeting with the entire BEA, anyone who wanted to attend or watch virtually, over 3 hours answering questions and concerns. In the last 5 weeks, I've been invited to the BEA office 4 times for roundtable discussions, which they've set up. spent a minimum of 2 hours up to 3 hours plus, again, answering questions and concerns of, and addressing concerns of the membership. So in no way, shape, or form was anyone being blamed. I did apologize to the teachers who took that as offensively, but unfortunately, I am not here to tell people what they can and cannot do in their personal life. I myself do socialize with a small group of folks outside of work. However, you try to do it responsibly. Do not do it, in large groups of my colleagues, so that if one of us did happen to catch the coronavirus, it would cripple the district or cripple the opening of a school. We have done a lot of contact tracing through all our reports of positive cases of staff members. And what the contact tracing is uncovering is that we are having folks, when one person tests positive in the school, saying that they were close contact with several colleagues. We've been very clear. Adults need to be responsible and stay 6 feet apart, wear masks. That's not always feasible when it comes to dealing with students, but it is always feasible when dealing with other staff members. So that was the point that was being made. But unfortunately, it is an emotional time. It is a very stressful time. I acknowledge that. I just want to be clear to the board and to the staff that no one's blaming anyone. Again, I admit without hesitation, I again have a small circle of folks I do socialize with. Everyone has the right to do that with their family and their friends, but just do it responsibly, and don't do that in large groups. We did have a principal who was disrespected last week in a staff meeting by her staff, and coincidentally, a day later, a staff member tests positive, and in the contact tracing stated very clearly she had a party at her home and had several teachers and their families there, and they were in close contact. Therefore, it impacted the operation of that building. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to avoid, not somebody going out to dinner with a colleague or out to lunch or things of that nature. So again, that's where we're at. The social media stuff, I know we'll never be able to control. But my only ask is that people are respectful, people do not put personal attacks, and people are not rude to others. That's not going to get us through this pandemic. It's not going to get us to be safer, and it's not definitely going to help and provide a good example to our students and our families. So I'd like to end on that right now.
Okay, yeah, I'm just going to piggyback that the way I interpreted the letter, it seemed like you were trying to point out that this closure was not being made because there's rampant infection within the schools. It was because of things that occurred outside of the buildings and people doing things in their personal lives that have had an impact on their own ability to come to work. So I maybe it wasn't put as clearly as it could have been, but that's the way I interpreted it.
Well, and to be honest with you, we've talked a lot, not only locally here with the Department of Public Health, but also in other surrounding towns and at the state level. And it's overwhelmingly the consensus of health officials that the COVID-19 coronavirus is not being rampantly spread through schools. Schools are the safest places to be. There are mitigating strategies, there are rules, there are protocols that must be followed. Other communities are being hit as hard as we are or close to it. It's because of outside sporting events. It's because of outside social events. And that's not a judgment on anybody. I completely understand. However, we cannot blame schools or the lack of mitigating strategies or PPE or anything else when that is not the science, that is not the metrics. Unfortunately, it's happening outside of schools, but there is no separation at the schoolhouse door when it comes to this virus.
Mr. Skolovic has his hand up. Mr. Taylor has his hand up. Mr. Skolovic, I know you have to get ready to go, so I'm going to go to you first, and then Mr. Taylor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. When I received that phone blast as well, I received the phone blast, and I was a little taken aback. And you definitely explained your intentions, and that's fine, or well and fine. But we all need to be mindful in our communications, because the great majority of us board members, the superintendent, your staff, educators, even parents, we're going above and beyond the call of duty in this pandemic. And we're performing the best we can in light of the circumstances. But I would like to raise up my personal experiences with the awesome 7th grade staff at Park City Magnet. The 7th grade team works as a coordinated, cohesive unit, and each staff member goes above and beyond the call of duty. Examples include live interaction with history teacher during the election, updating the electoral count into the evening and even on the weekends, papers promptly being graded over the weekend and returned in math, and awesome lessons posted to the math page for students to refer to. Language arts, word of the day, and other lessons being graded on teams at night and on weekends. Additional help given to edit and help kids with essay contest submissions. And finally, science, where the teacher seems to be available almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to assist and answer questions from students and their parents. This is all in addition to interactive classes that I witnessed that capture the distant and in-person students' attention and have them fully engaged. I feel it's that teachers like these, which represent the great majority, that need to be lifted up and recognized, even while calling out the small minority of staff who are not performing up to par for whatever reason. There is light at the end of this tunnel. We will come out of this pandemic, and we as a board, you as a superintendent, and our educators and parents will have to work together for the coming years after COVID has passed. It's important not to let the fear, stress, frustration, and anxiety cause us to lash out at one another and create a hostile learning and work environment. We must not let COVID and its related issues take our humanity from us due to the difference we may have. We got this. We could get through this all together. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Taylor, you have your hand up?
I do, Chairman Weldon. Chairman Weldon, let me take this opportunity first to take a moment of personal privilege, if I may. I'd like to inform this board and people in attendance with a heavy heart. We lost city son today, Sheriff Dennis Cinto, who was a pillar in the community. He was a dear friend of mine, a dear friend to many. If this board could extend me the courtesy to maybe take a moment of silence. He passed away today. I offer my sincerest condolence to his domestic partner, Marilyn, and his immediate family. He was a great man, and there isn't enough time to say enough great things about Dennis Cinto. So he was loved. He will never be forgotten. And those of you who don't know that he passed today unannounced. I was found by Marilyn, and if this board could offer their prayers in a moment of silence, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to ask
Thank you.
officially for a moment of silence in memory of Dennis Cinto. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and my colleagues on the Bridgeport Board of Education, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. John, moving forward, I just want to say that I support Superintendent Testani 100%. I think he's done a fabulous job. There is no playbook for this pandemic. He's been brutalized. Me personally, as you know, August 17th, here we are, November 17th. I never supported opening Bridgeport schools. I was outvoted. I respect that. I've kept my mouth shut. And I just want to let Superintendent Testati know in the general public that I support him 100%. I think he's done a fabulous job. He's been absolutely brutalized out there on social media, which is unacceptable. Moving forward, I just want to state that I agree with him closing the schools. I'm going to support that. And I don't know if it's going to take place, but I will not support a layoff of any Bridgeport Board of Education employee unless they so choose to. I don't want a cafeteria staff laid off. I don't want a paraprofessional laid off. I don't want a security officer laid off. I don't want anybody laid off. They're
Here,
our
here.
employees, and it's our point to take care of them. So that's my,
Here, here.
hang on, that's my only gripe. I'm finished. I support Superintendent Testani, but if anybody goes for layoffs, I'm going to rally to prevent it. That's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Testani, you've actually factored that into your decision. You want to explain how that's going to work to avoid any kind of layoffs?
Sure. So obviously, one of the things that's important, and I think it was clearly stated in my letter to you guys last night, was that we need to maintain a sense of normalcy to our families, our students, and we have great people that support the operation of our schools every single day. Schools do not operate with administrators. Schools do not operate with teachers. Schools operate with paraprofessionals, as Mr. Taylor mentioned, with clericals, with custodial staff, with security staff, with food and nutrition staff, with teachers, with administrators, and with central office. It is a puzzle that all the pieces have to function, unless, if not, there's a breakdown. So we have found very clearly with other districts that have been operating remotely that the successes to the success of students and to staff is having an open access to our schools. So that is why everyone will be required to report to buildings after the Thanksgiving holiday. We will operate just without students in the schools. Everything else will continue on as normal. This will also portray and give our families and our students a sense of hope that we will be back. We will be back for them. We will be back just as we were this week, last week, and the week before. So to that point, Mr. Taylor, we're not looking to lay anyone off. We're actually looking to make sure everybody stays in place. And that is one of the rationales for making folks come into buildings. The resources are there. Their colleagues are there. That collaboration is there. It's just a good way to operate a remote school atmosphere. We know a lot more today than we did back in March. There are no executive orders saying that everyone needs to stay home. There is no stay home order. It's important that everybody works together, and there's a level of support and accountability here. And I think that's something that we need to understand. Again, social media is out there. I sent you guys a very clear email. This is not about people, wasting gas or anything else. This is just about good practice. And we find, and other districts have found, to be successful with this remote learning experience, it's best that we have everybody at work and everybody doing their job, supporting each other, because we're not going to leave people out in the cold, especially during the holiday season. And just one last piece, I know Mr. Sokolovic's going to go. Messaging and communication is extremely important. I'm not going to sit here and blow my own horn, but from the day I took this job well over a year ago, every Friday I end the week on a positive message to our entire school community. So for someone to take something out of context and knowing the history was a little difficult to swallow. But again, I understand we are in very emotionally high anxiety times, and I think we all should get a pass once in a while. But I just want to make that very clear, because I don't want anyone to think that this is something that is a regular occurrence, so to speak. But thank you. Maybe I said a little too much.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want to thank Superintendent Testani. That's why I support you, because you're a reasonable thinking, rational individual. I greatly appreciate your efforts to the city of Bridgeport and the student body and the faculty as well. I'm glad to see that there will be no layoffs. That's music to my ears. On that note, I don't have anything further to say until you call the vote. Thank you so much.
Okay. There actually is no vote. This is just an update and a Q&A. Next one with their hand up is Mr. Benahan.
And John, in that case,
Yeah.
everybody, good night. I'm outie. If there's no vote, no
Okay.
layoff, we're all good. Love you all. Be safe, be healthy, and God bless.
You too, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Benahan?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm gonna put my camera up because I want to be sure for the record. I will say this, and this is not something about attacking nobody and being negative. But Mr. Testani, I know for the day one, you're doing an amazing job. It's not easy what you're going through because for the year you with us, you did amazing and many things that others would take years and months to resolve and fix situation that they will be scared to fix it. I'll be honest because I cannot be, be trying to be two-faced and say yes, 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 and then behind you I'll say something else. For the day one, and everybody know I'm not agreed to open the schools, and you know that. But I respect everybody's decision, everybody's vote. So at the same time that I'm not agreed to have no layoff, like Mr. Taylor said, I agree with that. And not only the paraprofessional or the what Mr. Taylor said, excluding the security. We don't want that. That I'm not agreed that staff go back to the building. No, I'm not agree with that. But you guys make the decision, stuff like that, because I care and I want to be sure nobody gets sick and everybody very safe. It's not easy what we're going through. Everybody was stressed. Everybody is, said everything. What the same thing what Mr. Young said. But I want to be sure that I'm not agree with you a lot of things you do because it's not easy what you're going through. I'm not here to be sure that everybody be against me because I'm maybe stressful or because I'm not agree because Mr. Benahan or trying to be like I'm trying to be a bully or not agree. Nothing like that. That I want to agree a few things that you do, Mr. Testani, is normal because everything in this life is not 100%. Everything has to be good. But I just appreciate that the short time you're here with us, you did so amazing things that others, former superintendent, will not be doing it. And I know it's not easy. You having phone calls, emails, and people visiting you, people attacking you, because sometimes people don't understand exactly what you're going through. It's not easy. You have to make decisions. But people, they think that you make decision for everything when it's health department has to talk to you. And it was one of them, they say if you can close the school or not. So people, they think that you the only one made the decision what's going on in Bristol School. No, it's a protocol. And I understand that. And I respect that. So people that have to just understand, like us, one of us, that you're doing the best you can. And you have to follow some protocol in policy. But I will, for the record, I appreciate everything you do because like I said, for the short time you are at the superintendent of school, you're doing so many things that others that will be hiding and that will take months or years to make decisions. When you sometimes in the weekends, you are emailing to us, you inform it to us, and you always send an email to us. So I want to be sure that on the record that, I will appreciate everything you do and to be sure, everybody be on the same page. Thank you for everything you do, Mr. Testani.
Thank you, Mr. Benahan. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I want to, based on what Mr. Benahan said and Mr. Taylor, I want to kind of put things into perspective because it's easy to get caught up in the immediate and not see things from a distance. And, 2.5 months ago, we were trying to get kids back to school if they were willing to go, if their parents are willing to go, to get them back to a sense of normalcy and to give them the opportunity to have the superior learning environment that in-person learning provides. We probably all knew deep down that it wouldn't last forever, that this next wave was coming and it would require a change in how we're doing things. But the longer we could keep things going with a sense of normalcy, that was the best thing to do. And so we did that and we moved forward. And everything kept being monitored. And I think fortunately, in our case, we were able to kind of give people an advanced notice that we were going to start making this change, as opposed to like with other districts, they just did it the night before. We're just shutting it all down. And that's a great hardship to a lot of parents to just all of a sudden find out it's all going to remote learning. Mr. Testani has taken great pains to try to stay ahead of all of this and keep people informed of how things are changing as they're changing so that they could adjust their own schedules and plans to accommodate this. And the fact that he was able to put out there a week ago that we were going to be going to full remote on the 23rd so that parents and students could have a week or a week and a half to get themselves ready to do that. I think that's the best that anyone could hope for. And it's not easy. It's not an easy judgment call to make. A lot of it is being done on faith and what you think is going to happen. And so far, the right calls have been being made. And I think it's been a real service to the public to be able to give them that kind of advance warning. So I want to thank Michael for that. Again, I know not everybody agreed with the opening in the first place, but I appreciate everybody working together to make the best of this set of circumstances. So I don't see any other hands up, so I'll just go down the list alphabetically. Ms. Allen, do you have anything to say?
No, except to say that Mr. Testani has done a wonderful job as far as I'm concerned. I've known Mr. Testani, and everything he touches turns to gold. He has a Midas touch.
I wish.
Okay.
I wish.
I'll
Thank
start
you.
hanging out with him.
Yeah, right.
Next, Ms. Brown.
I'm all set. No comment.
Okay. Mr. Lombard?
I'm all set, just other than, Ms. Allen, you're gonna make Mr. Taylor jealous with those comments about Michael.
Oh, well, he's not here, so I can.
Okay. Mr. Sokolovic, you spoke earlier. I'm going to ask if you have anything else to say. If you don't, just don't respond. I'll wait a couple of seconds. Okay. I think that's everyone. In closing, I just want to thank all the teachers and the administrators and all the other staff members that have really been going through a difficult time. It's a very high anxiety time for all of them. I appreciate that. And they all, I think, have done everything that they could do collectively to move everything forward. So I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge all of their hard work. So I just want to thank all of them publicly. Mr. Testani, do you have anything to say in closing?
Just, I thank everybody for the support. We do try to make decisions that are for the best interest of everyone. That includes staff and 20,000 students and their families. I know sometimes, people look at things from their own personal perspective only. And I understand that that's human nature. But it's a challenge to be able to make good decisions that are right for kids, but also take into account the health and safety of everyone else. So thank you for all your support as a board. This is truly a great work that we're doing together, and we'll continue on until we're out of this. And this is something that I read somewhere today. This is something that's just not a pandemic. This is historical. It really is. It's an historical time. We have students that are experiencing something I'm sure they'll never experience again, and hope to God they never do. But it is historical nonetheless, and we are living it, and we're working through it. And as a board and superintendent, I think we've done right by our community here.
Agreed. Okay. Unless anyone else has anything to say, I'm going to seek a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Moved by Ms. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Benahan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourning. Time is noted as being 7:54 p.m. Our next meeting will be on the regular meeting on the 23rd. So thank you all for giving us your time tonight. Have a good night. See you next time.
Right.